This is a Fox News alert. Back to our top story. A terror threat from al-Qaeda forcing many U.S. embassies and consulates to close this weekend. U.S. intelligence calling the threat serious and credible. The State Department closing at least 21 embassies and consulates in hotspots all across North Africa and the Middle East on Sunday. That includes Egypt, Libya, and Afghanistan, and also issuing a global travel warning for all Americans. Lisa Daftari is a Mideast journalist and a Fox News contributor and joins us to talk about this. Good to see you today. Thanks for coming in.
My pleasure.
What do you make of this? I mean, it seems like there's a very specific warning, a very specific threat potentially behind this.
Right. It's both specific and broad at the same time. Specific in that we know that the State Department has a credible threat. They have every reason to be doing what they're doing. They might know more than they're telling the public, but they are telling the public. And it's not just targeted officials of these embassies and the consulate employees. They're telling all Americans, whether they're traveling or studying abroad or living abroad, to sign up to get alerts from the State Department, from the consular services. So it is a very much a credible threat, and it's something that everyone should be taking very much seriously.
And a number of lawmakers are saying, listen, obviously we can't tell you all the details, but we're doing a much better job at connecting the dots this time around than we have been in the past. How much do you think what happened in Benghazi, where we lost 4 Americans, is influencing this decision?
Right. So whether or not, I wouldn't say that the State Department's overreacting by any means in terms of, seeing what happened in Benghazi and then saying, but I do believe that Benghazi had, much to do with this in terms of al-Qaeda or the other threats. Looking at the U.S. and considering that a huge victory where the U.S. did not really retaliate towards the people that perpetrated those attacks.
They're still on the run.
They're still on the run. They're giving interviews, right? So they're becoming celebrities while we're sitting here and they're saying, check, one for our team, right? So at the same time, our, slow reaction to terrorism globally, our sitting in our offices in Washington, D.C. and saying that the war on terror is over has not really served us, and that's the bottom line here. The take-home message for us Americans is that the war on terror is not over, and I hate to be sitting here and, kind of trying to be a fear-monger by any means on a Friday afternoon, but the truth of the matter is that this is a very credible threat. It's much larger than what we know about it, because they don't want to be specific, but there is a specific target here. But they're closing 21 embassies just to be sure. There could be copycat attacks. We're coming up on 9/11, whether you want to say it was the anniversary of 2001 or 2011. We're coming up on the end of Ramadan, which is often a time for celebrations of sorts. I mean, you wouldn't know it by looking at Egypt or Syria, but during the month of Ramadan, which is the holy Islamic month of fasting, there shouldn't be any war, there shouldn't be any fighting. There has been, obviously, in all these countries where there's a lot of political turmoil, but Wednesday ends the holiday, and we're thinking that Sunday might be the beginnings, hopefully not, of other planned plots.
And I noticed in a lot of these countries, we do have a very robust diplomatic corps in a number of these countries. And in a number of these countries, we also send a lot of foreign aid. I mean, billions of dollars to these places.
Right, but we see that a lot of the influences of al-Qaeda and other elements that are very anti-West, anti-American also growing there. And we've said this before on this network, if you want to hate us, you can hate us for free. So we need to know where these elements are. We need to eradicate them, and especially when there's a threat such as this one, we need to be ahead of the game and not behind it as we have been in the past.
Yeah, better safe than sorry in any case where, I mean, the government gets, we know, volumes of potential threat material every single day. And for whatever reason, and there have been briefings on the Hill, everybody has agreed that this is a legitimate issue. We know those embassies are closing on Sunday. We know that the travel warning appears to run through the end of the month. And there's also talk from the State Department that the closure of those embassies and consulates could continue past Sunday, based on what we've learned.
Right. The threat has actually now been extended to the end of the month. And we only know that because of the travel warning that's been issued to those that are traveling and working abroad. And again, this has to be so incredibly serious and not an overreaction, because look at how much tourism will be lost on every end when you look at it. So I don't think that the State Department has really thought about this, and they wouldn't put out such a serious and stern warning for until the end of August if that was not the case.
Do you think that we'll learn any more about the threat, more than we know now, or do you think it's just something that the government's going to have to keep close to the vest?
If they do have to keep it close, then we'll understand, and we'll know that that was for the best. But I do believe that they are giving out information as is needed by the American public and those traveling and working abroad to stay safe. So I think we'll have to just sit and see what develops. But it has been moving pretty slowly. We haven't found out much more since yesterday when the story broke.
All right, Lisa, thank you very much for your insights.
My pleasure.